Came back from a trip to find my savings gone and my sister in a new apartment. We thought you'd be happy, Dad said, so I showed up with a lawyer the next morning. When I landed back in the States, it felt like the first breath after being underwater too long. I'd been working overseas for 10 months, 2 jobs, 6-day weeks, barely enough sleep, trying to build a future, dollar by dollar. Every transfer I made home, I thought about what that money represented: security, independence, the slow construction of a life I could finally call my own. I kept dreaming of what I'd do with it. Maybe a modest house in a quiet neighborhood. Maybe finally enroll in that mechanical design program I'd put off for years. I had it all mapped out. Every sacrifice had a purpose. So, when I walked through the front door of my old apartment, still smelling like dust and wood polish, I should have felt peace. Instead, I felt uneasy. Like something was off, even before I opened my laptop and checked my bank account. What I saw made my mouth go dry. Balance, $3.72. I blinked. Refreshed. Refreshed again. The number didn't change. Tens of thousands of dollars, gone. Gone. At first, my mind did what anyone's would do. Fraud, right? I'd been overseas. Maybe someone skimmed my card or hacked the app. I started making calls, shaking so hard I dropped the phone twice. The support rep was kind but confused. No unauthorized access. No red flags. It didn't make sense. I kept digging. Transaction history. Transfers. Internal withdrawals. And then I saw it. Every dollar had gone to one familiar destination, a joint savings account I hadn't touched in years. An account I'd opened with my parents when I was 19. One I'd forgotten was still technically active. They hadn't. I sat there, staring at the screen. The silence around me was deafening. My heart wasn't pounding anymore. It was a cold, hollow thing in my chest. I picked up the phone and dialed home. Mom answered. Cheerful, even. You're back. How was the trip? She said, like we were chatting about the weather. I didn't play along. I didn't even say hello. Where's my money? There was a pause. A long one. Then she sighed and said, Honey, we were going to tell you. That's when I knew. She already knew what I was talking about. We were going to tell you, she said again, like that made it better. Like a heads up would have made it less of a betrayal. I didn't say anything. I didn't have words. Not yet. So she kept going. Your father and I talked about it for weeks. We thought, it's not like you were using the money right now, and your sister really needed help. There it was. My sister. Of course. I could already feel the headache building behind my eyes, the slow throb of disbelief turning into anger. But I kept my voice even. What did you use it for? I asked. Another pause. She moved into a new apartment. Something closer to the city. It's not cheap, but it's in a better neighborhood, and she's been through a lot lately. She's always been through a lot, I said quietly. That's your favorite excuse for her. That's not fair, Mom said quickly. She's starting over, she's rebuilding. With my money. You weren't here. You were overseas. You didn't even say how long you'd be gone, and we figured. I cut in. Now my voice had an edge. That dangerous kind of quiet that even she recognized, because she hesitated again. Your father, she said. It was his idea, really. He thought you'd be, happy. That we could all help each other. Family helping family. I hung up. I didn't slam the phone down. I didn't yell. I didn't say another word. I just let the silence answer for me and ended the call. Then I drove. I didn't know where I was going at first. Maybe part of me hoped this was all a misunderstanding. That I'd show up at my parents' place, and they'd tell me it was temporary, that the money had been transferred but never touched. That there'd been some mistake, and they were already fixing it. But when I walked through the front door and saw the way my dad smiled at me, calm, casual, almost proud, I knew there was no mistake. He stood up, arms open, as if I'd returned from vacation. Hey, son! Welcome back! You look good, leaner. Must be all that foreign food, huh? I didn't return the smile. He clapped me on the shoulder, completely ignoring my expression. Listen, he said. Before you get upset, just hear us out. We thought you'd be happy. Your sister's doing great, really thriving. She needed a boost. And honestly, what's money for, if not helping the people you love? I stared at him. I didn't give you that money. His smile faltered. You left access open, he said. We thought. You thought wrong, I snapped. You stole it. Now he frowned. Don't be dramatic. You'll make it all back. You're good with money, you always have been. But she needed it now. You weren't even here. I was about to respond when I heard heels clicking against the hardwood floor. And there she was. Rachel. My sister. Hair done up like she was headed to brunch, iced coffee in hand, not a care in the world. She glanced at me, then smiled. Hey, world traveler, she said like nothing had happened. You're welcome, by the way. My new place is amazing. You should come by sometime. She winked. And that was it. That was the moment. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even reply. I turned, walked out the door, and drove home. And that night I hired a lawyer. I remember sitting in the lawyer's office, staring at the edge of his desk while he scrolled through the documents on his screen. His name was Daniel Klein, quiet guy, sharp suit, sharper eyes. I'd found him through a friend who went through something similar. Said he didn't just win, he dissected the other side. I told him everything. Every transaction. Every access point. Showed him the account logs, the withdrawals, the shared access my parents still had because I'd never thought to remove them. That old childhood trust one hadn't realized was still hanging around like a loose wire, until it sparked and burned everything. When I finished, Daniel leaned back and nodded. This is theft, he said, calm as ever. You have clear documentation of the account being solely funded by you. They had no legal claim to those funds. And the fact that they're my parents? I asked. That she's my sister? He didn't blink. Doesn't matter. You didn't give them permission. This wasn't a gift. They used your account like a piggy bank and cleaned it out without your consent. I think I nodded. I think I thanked him. I honestly don't remember. What I do remember, clear as crystal, is walking back to my car with a folder in hand. Inside, fraud complaint, financial abuse summary, court order drafts. And this feeling I couldn't quite name. It wasn't rage anymore. That had burned off the night before. This was colder. Something had cracked in me, and not in the loud, dramatic way people think of when they talk about breaking points. No. This was quieter. Sterile. A hollow snap that made everything feel weightless. I didn't cry. Didn't scream. I went home, ironed my shirt, made copies of the documents, and set my alarm for 6 a.m. The next morning, I knocked on my parents' door at 7:15. My father opened it wearing a robe and holding a coffee mug. He blinked at me, confused. What? I handed him the manila envelope. He looked down at it, then up at me. What is this? Legal notice, I said. You'll want to read the last few pages carefully. They include the asset recovery demands. I'm pressing charges. His expression shifted. The kind of slow-motion transformation that you only see in people who are realizing, for the first time, you're not playing their game anymore. You're suing us? He said, as if the word offended him on a molecular level. Yes. You're taking your family to court? No, I said. I'm holding thieves accountable. Behind him, my mom appeared in the hallway, half-dressed, clutching her sweater. What's going on? My sister walked out of the kitchen next. Still smug. Still sleepy. Her face froze when she saw the folder in his hands. You're serious? She said, her voice higher now. You're actually going through with this? I didn't answer. I didn't step inside. I just looked at them, 3 people I thought I'd known, and said, You'll be hearing from my lawyer. Then I turned and walked away. That was the last time I stood in that house. The first call came less than an hour later. I ignored it. The second one, I let ring all the way through. By the third, I turned off my phone entirely. I didn't want to hear the excuses, the guilt trips, or worse, the begging. Because I knew what they were going to say. I'd heard it all my life. It was just a mistake. We're family. You always overreact. But that morning, when I handed my father those documents and saw his hands tremble, that wasn't overreacting. That was them realizing, for the first time, that they had pushed someone too far. Daniel moved fast. Within 2 days, the paperwork was filed. A formal complaint for fraud and financial abuse. We included a request for asset freezing, and by the end of the week, we had a hearing scheduled. Civil court, not criminal, for now. But it would hurt them where it mattered, their bank account, their credit, their reputation. The kicker? Daniel discovered that my sister's new apartment, the one decked out in high-end appliances and rooftop views, had been co-signed using forged documents. She'd listed me as a guarantor. She never even asked? Daniel smirked when he showed me the lease. That alone is a slam dunk for identity fraud, he said. My RESP. Ans was simple. Include it. By the time the court date rolled around, my parents were visibly shaken. I saw them from across the room, my mom in an oversized cardigan, trying to look meek, my dad in a wrinkled suit, eyes darting like he expected someone to wake him up from a bad dream. Rachel didn't show. Her lawyer did. Good. I didn't want to see her face. They settled. Quickly. The court ordered partial repayment, about 70% of the amount they'd taken, plus damages. My lawyer said it was a win. But it didn't feel like one. There were no apologies. No explanations. Just signatures and silence. After court, my father tried to follow me out into the parking lot. Wait, he said, catching up to me. You didn't have to do this. I turned slowly. Looked him in the eyes one last time. You're right, I said. I chose to. And I kept walking. It didn't happen all at once. I didn't pack a bag and disappear overnight like in the movies. It was slower than that. Quieter. It started with the small things, a new phone plan. A P.O. box in another state. I rerouted all my mail, closed out my accounts, opened new ones at a credit union 3 cities over. Accounts only I had access to this time. The payout from the settlement hit my account 2 weeks after the court date. Most of it was wired over. The rest would trickle in as part of the repayment plan, assuming they didn't default. But I didn't care about the money anymore. I cared about leaving. I sold everything that didn't matter. Donated half my clothes. Got rid of the car I'd grown up driving, bought a used hatchback off a guy who didn't ask questions. I told no one, not even the few friends I still talked to. The night before I left, I stood in my empty apartment with the lights off and the window open. The air was still. The kind of silence you only notice when you're about to say goodbye to something, or someone. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't sad, because there was nothing left to grieve. The next morning, I left my key on the counter and walked out. No note. No goodbye. Just gone. I drove until the road stopped looking familiar. Then I kept driving. Somewhere in the southwest, I pulled into a town I didn't recognize, bought a room for a week, and rented a small 1-bedroom above a bookstore. No one knew me. No one asked why I was there. I told them my name was Caleb. It wasn't. But it would do. That was 3 years ago. The first few weeks felt like exhaling after holding my breath for years. No one called. No one knocked on my door. I didn't wake up wondering if my phone would buzz with another guilt-soaked message. The silence wasn't empty, it was full of relief. I got a job under the radar. Cash work, nothing flashy. Helped fix up the back room of the bookstore downstairs, eventually started managing inventory. It was quiet work. Steady. Nobody cared who I used to be. I bought a cheap flip phone. No apps. No GPS. Just numbers I chose to add, 2 of them, total. Every now and then I'd get curious. I'd open the laptop I kept tucked under the floorboards and search their names. My parents, Rachel. They were still where I left them. Still fighting repayment deadlines. Still stuck. But they never found me. And they never would. The hardest part wasn't losing the money. It wasn't the betrayal, either, not in the way people think. That sharp pain you expect, like getting stabbed in the back. That kind of pain fades. No, what lingered was quieter. Like walking through a house you used to live in and realizing you don't recognize the walls anymore. Sometimes, out of nowhere, a memory would hit me. My dad teaching me how to ride a bike on the sidewalk in front of our old house, his hands steady on my back, running beside me. My mom baking banana bread on Sunday mornings, humming under her breath. Rachel and I playing in the backyard when we were kids, her laughing, grabbing my hand as we tried to catch fireflies. None of it felt real anymore. The warmth of those memories had gone cold. Like someone had tampered with the tape, overwritten it with noise. And when I tried to replay them, all I could hear was, "We thought you'd be happy." That sentence haunted me more than anything else. It wasn't just the audacity, it was the expectation beneath it. As if I was supposed to feel grateful that they had taken something from me for someone else. As if my hard work, my sacrifice, my future didn't belong to me, it was theirs to distribute. I started writing it all down. Not to publish. Not for closure. Just to get it out of my head. I filled page after page with the moments that led up to the break. The night I discovered the account was empty, the way my sister smiled like she'd won, the look on my father's face when he realized I wasn't bluffing. But I didn't write it like a victim. I wrote it like an inventory. A record. A quiet testimony for the man I was trying to become. Because in the silence, in the distance I'd put between us, something had started to grow. Not bitterness. Not vengeance. Something else. Control. For the first time in my life, I was in control of the story. They say when you disappear you lose things. Connections. Identity. Familiarity. And that's true, in a way. But no one talks about what you gain. Freedom, for starters. The kind that sits quietly in your chest, not loud or triumphant, but steady. Reliable. The kind that doesn't come from cutting people out, but from realizing they never saw you to begin with. In this new life, I didn't have to explain myself. I was just Caleb, the guy who worked at the bookstore, fixed the coffee machine when it broke, remembered regulars' names. No one asked where I came from. No one questioned why I didn't talk about my family. People filled in the blanks with polite assumptions, and I let them. I started volunteering at a community center down the street. Fixing bikes for kids, teaching a couple of them how to work a wrench, how to check for a loose chain. Things I used to do with my dad. Only this time, it felt different. Like I was rewriting what those memories had meant. I opened a savings account under my new name. No joint access. No paper trails leading back. I checked it compulsively at first, terrified it would vanish again. But it didn't. It stayed. Quiet. Untouched. Some nights, I'd walk to the edge of town and just sit. Watch the lights of the city blink in the distance. Think about how easily people like my father and sister carried on after tearing someone else down, how they always expected the world to rebuild itself around them. But not this time. They hadn't heard from me since the court date. No texts. No calls. No accidental sightings. For all they knew, I'd left the country. And in a way, I had. Not geographically. Spiritually. I was someone else now. One day, I passed a woman on the street who looked exactly like my sister. Same walk. Same hair. Same slightly too loud voice. My chest locked up for half a second. But when I looked closer, it wasn't her. Just a stranger. And I felt nothing. No panic. No hatred. Just distance. It was the kind of peace I didn't know I'd been chasing. Not revenge. Not even justice. Just silence. It was a cold evening when it happened, early December. The kind of night where the wind slides under your coat and reminds you you're still made of skin and bone, no matter how thick your walls are. I was closing up the bookstore, flipping the sign to closed, when the phone rang. Not my personal phone. The store's landline. It almost never rang after dark. I hesitated, then picked it up. Hello? Silence at first. Then a voice I hadn't heard in over a year. It's Dad. I didn't say anything. I had to try. I don't know if this is even still your number. It wasn't. Not really. The store wasn't in my name. The number wasn't listed. Which meant he'd gone looking hard. How did you find this? I asked, keeping my voice flat. A contact. Someone remembered you from before. He cleared his throat. Caleb, right? That's what you go by now. I didn't confirm or deny it. Just let the silence stretch. I didn't call to argue, he said quickly. I know we messed up. I know what we did was unforgivable. I just wanted you to know your mom hasn't been well. Not since everything happened. He waited for me to ask how she was doing. I didn't. I had to sell the house, he continued, voice softer now. Rachel moved back in for a while. Things didn't go how she planned either. That place of hers? Foreclosed. Turns out living on someone else's dime only works when that someone's still paying. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable. Like gravity. Like rain. Like the sun rising on people who never learned. He kept talking. About how much he regretted it. About the good times we used to have. He even tried to bring up that fishing trip when I was 12. Said we were close once. Close? He stole from me. He watched me fall and handed my future to someone else. Not because he had no choice, but because he believed she deserved it more. And now he wanted, what? Redemption? Closure? I let him finish. When the silence came, I finally spoke. You know what hurts most? I said. It's not the money. It's not even the betrayal. It's that you stood there, looked me in the eye, and told me I should be happy about it. He didn't respond. You'll never hear from me again, I added. Not because I hate you, but because I don't need you. And that's what you could never stand. Then I hung up. Did I cry? No. Did I feel lighter? Not really. What I felt was something different. Like closing a door in a house you'd already left. Like turning off the light in a room you'll never walk into again. That was the last time I heard his voice. Sometimes I wonder if they still talk about me. If my name comes up at the dinner table, in hushed tones, like I'm a ghost. A cautionary tale. The son who vanished. But I don't dwell on it. Because the truth is, I didn't disappear. I escaped. I built something they'll never touch. A life where I don't flinch when the phone rings. A life that's mine, earned, protected, real.